You can start.
Okay, so good morning everyone. Yesterday we covered many basic things in Python, such as comments, outputs, strings, number types. So today we'll continue what was left and we will start by learning tuples, list, control flow, and functions. So I'll be covering lists and a little bit of I'll be covering tuples and a little bit of lists, and Pratik shall be covering control flow statements and functions. So I'll start by tuples and presenting my screen. Okay. So is this clearly visible? Do I need to zoom in, zoom out?
Visible.
Hello.
It's
Okay.
visible.
So okay. So I just will continue with the yesterday's tutorial session .ipynb. You may start with the new notebook or you may continue with the same one. So yes, what are tuples basically? So tuples are mainly used to store a number of information. So for example, let me just write this tuple 1. So T1 is a variable which stands for tuple 1, and it is denoted by curly what is this called? I think curly brackets, right? So
You
1
say
comma 2.
round brackets or parentheses.
Okay, yeah, I apologize. So in the round brackets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I have typed some random numbers here, and what this variable will do is save all these numbers inside it. So okay, so let me run this cell, and since the cell is run, the variable is saved. So if I call this, it will print the numbers it has saved. So okay, we'll do one thing. T2, one more tuple. So 1, 2, 3, and tuples can also save string type objects. So let's just say 9 and 6. So you may run this, and since it is run, it is also saved the tuple now. So okay. One more thing is that the difference between a list, since we saw an example of list yesterday with that string dot split method, I'll tell you the main difference between a tuple and a list. So you can add or change values in a list, whereas you cannot do that for a tuple. For example, let me just do this. List 1 in square brackets, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6. Same thing for T1. T1 is already mentioned, so I'll just not define it again. So I'll run this cell, and what I can do now is so they both have the same number of elements, and now in order to call an element from a list, in order to see or print an element, we need to know its index number. So we have seen index number in the yesterday's session. It's all the same for a string and a list or a tuple. So it all starts from 0. So in order to get the third element, in a list or a tuple, we just need to enter the index number 2, because the index number position starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, that's the third element. So we write it down by using the following. So L1, 2. So this will print out 3. That's correct. So we can do similar things for T1. So we can do this and it'll print out 3. So index positioning is the same for tuple and list. So okay. So we can So for example, if we want to check the number of elements in a list or a tuple, for example, say if we want to check T1. How many number of elements are there in a list? So see, we simply do len. It stands for length, and we put the brackets. So we get number of elements is equal to 6. Same thing we can do for uh, L1. So here also the number of elements will be 6. Okay, if any doubts, you can tell me right now.
Sir, what's the difference between them?
Uh, I'm sorry, you're not audible.
Sir, what's the difference between list and tuple then?
So okay, so basically a list you can add add a number or a string type object at the end of it. But in tuples, it is only used for saving the numbers. So you cannot edit or change the positions of the numbers inside a tuple. But in a list, you can. So let me, okay. So I'll write it down. For example, in order to change the element of a list, say L1, okay. So I'll change the second element. So index number would be 2. I will make it equal to, say, 54. So if I print L1 now, you may see the following. The second number has been changed to 54. But if I do the same thing for list tuple, sorry, I change the second element to number, say, 34. It will give you an error because it would say object does not support item assignment. So tuple you cannot assign any items, but in a list you can. So lists are useful in control flow operations, and you want to save elements and add elements to a list. So that becomes useful. And tuple is more useful for storing data. So you don't have to worry about it changing the values in a code or something. So you can do that.
Okay, sir.
So, okay, if any questions you can tell me.
So
Okay,
tuples you may use to store all the constants in a problem.
that's correct. It may store lists as well. For example, T2 is equal to, say, 1, comma 2, comma 3. And say, for example, there is a string. So uh, string can contain anything. So let's just type anything. And it can also contain a list. So, okay, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this can also be a tuple. And if I run this cell and add a new cell by pressing D.
This is now tuple or list because you have put this
Oh,
in
I'm sorry.
quoted.
I apologize. I have not. Okay. So now this is a uh, tuple, but there consists a list inside a tuple. You may access this list by doing the following. So this will show the following list because the list is the last index number, and I have represented the last index number by -1. We have seen this in the earlier session. So if you want to access the list, I mean the list inside the tuple, and you want to access the element in that list, you may do the following. So suppose this list has 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if I want to access the third element, so what I need to do is press the index number 2. So this will give me 6. Okay. So I think that's about it for tuples and list. I mean, you learn more about the list in control flow and functions. That
There is a
Pratik would,
question.
yes.
What if we add the list in itself?
Okay, let's try that. It is possible, yes. So for example, 1 comma 2, 3 comma 4, 5 comma 6. This is possible, yes. So if I run this cell and uh, if I want to have the element of the second list, and inside that second list, I want to I want to call the second element. So in this case, it would be 4. So if I want to do that, I may just call the following. So the list index number would be 1 because the index number starts with 0. And after that, you may call one more square bracket and press the index value 1 because 3 has the index number 0 and 4 has the index number 1. So if you run the following cell, you may get 4.
So can you repeat again?
Okay, so I have represented a list with the variable L1. The list contains a number of lists. So in this case, there are three lists inside this list. So list one is 1 comma 2, list 2 is 3 comma 4, list list 3 is did I say list 2? So list 2 is 3 comma 4 and list 3 is 5 comma 6. So if I want to call an individual list in L1 variable, so I may just say, for example, I want to call the first list. So the first list index would be 0. And after that, okay, so I'll do this. It will call this 1 comma 2 list. And if, for example, uh, I may save this as a variable LL1. Okay, so I didn't run this cell. Let me run this cell. Okay, so LL1. Now, if I get the uh, first element of LL1, that is 1 comma 2, it will give me 1. So the index number for value 1 is 0. So that will give me 1. So this, like in these two lines are essentially the same as calling L1 0 and then 0. It will give me 1. So using this lines is the same as using this line.
There is a message Jupyter Notebook is giving me server error. What do I do?
Server error.
Probably stop the kernel or something like that.
Sir, you may.
So that message is there here on the chat.
Okay, I'll just check it.
But what error? Does it mention anything?
No, it doesn't mention the error. It just says server error.
You can try restarting your kernel.
Yes. Try to exit this Jupyter Notebook file you have made and open Anaconda Navigator again and open Jupyter
There is
Notebook.
one suggestion also or caution that kernel you have, in the background you have to keep on. Don't close that window.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Sir, do all of them know what kernel means? The
No,
window.
they don't know. You didn't explain.
Okay. I'll show them later.
So one more thing I would like to add is the tuples. Is everyone following? Should I wait for anyone? Okay, so I'll continue with this last example of tuple. So T2 will now represent a tuple inside a tuple. So T2. So the index number for this tuple would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll just say 4 here. And now this will print me a tuple. And in order to access this tuple, like say for example, I want to access the last element of the tuple, then I'll just simply do this. So it'll print 9. Okay, so I think that's it for tuple and some part of the list.
So
I will.
what is the application of tuple? where it can be used?
It can mainly be used for storing data. For example, if you are pre-processing images and you want to check the pixel sizes, so you will learn this later, but NumPy is a library in Python which helps in identifying those pixel values. So you may want to, check the shape of an image or something. So that time tuple, like the knowledge of tuple is mainly used. And that's the main example which comes out of my mind right now. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm getting an error while doing list. Like
Okay.
I had L1 a list of
Hmm.
three lists. Actually, it contains three lists. Now I'm
Okay.
trying to find the third list second number. How would I do that?
So third list, second number. So you may simply do this. So L1 minus 1, that will be taking the last list of your main list, and then the second, right? So you just do minus 1 again. So that will give you 6.
Okay.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes.
We have seen that list could have the list inside it, and tuple could have a list inside it. Can list tuple list could have a tuple inside it?
Okay, so you mean like L3 is equal to
Yes.
1
Yes.
comma 2.
Yes.
Okay, so uh, apparently yes, it can have L3. Okay, so we'll
So,
call the tuple 0. Yes. So if
so
you
that
want to
means
access,
like
yes.
if we include tuple inside the list, then we can also edit the tuples.
No, you may remove the tuple or completely change the tuple. For example, so if I call this tuple, 1 second. So this represents tuple because the output is 12 comma 3 comma 4. Now if I change this output, that's what you mean, right?
Yes.
So 12. So okay, so I'll put this. So now the output is just 12 comma 12 comma 3. So it has removed the tuple, and in place of that it has put my desired output, like the desired input. So 12 comma 12 comma 3. So you cannot change the tuple in that way, but you can remove it, or append the list. Like append is nothing but adding an element in a list at the last place. You
Is
may
it
learn.
possible? Is it possible that you do L3 square bracket 0 square bracket 0? No,
That's
not now.
yes.
Not now. Not now. When the tuple is there.
Okay. Let me just remove this. Yes, you can do that. You can call an element from the tuple
Yeah.
inside a list.
And can you assign this now?
Okay. So it's
Okay.
just the same
Yeah.
thing. It won't have the item assignment for a tuple.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. So any questions regarding tuples or lists?
So, sir, can you explain this again, assignment thing?
Okay. So for example, say we'll choose the previous list. Say I want to have this list, okay? And I'll just add a new cell. And since L1 is defined, I'll just run this cell. And now if I want to change the, say, uh, let's say I want to change this element 4. So I'll simply do this, call the index value of the second list, that is 1. And after that, I will call the element value, the index element value, that is also 1. And now if I assign that variable as the element as 24 and call this again, it will replace 4 with 24. Okay. So the assignment thing is only valid for lists and not for tuples. So if I do the same thing for tuples, you may get this error called item assignment, and tuple is like not bothered to be updated or change the values. So you cannot do that for tuple, but you can do that for lists.
So basically, square brackets, the things which are in square brackets are a list, and which are in comma are tuple, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay.
And just one thing, if a list is having more advantages, then what is the use of tuple? I don't want to use tuple. I will put only in list, store it, change it, do whatever I like. Is that possible? I mean, will there be any harm?
Madam, it is useful to have the knowledge of tuple because mainly some libraries which we'll be learning later use tuples for like storing information. For example, NumPy stores matrices dimensions in a tuple. So we need to have some particular knowledge of tuple in order to use it. So that's the main thing. Yes.
In
Thank you.
addition, I mean, from our point of view, also, it might be useful if you store all constants first, and by mistake you don't change them when you're using it in a program. So, for example, all scientific constants you may put in a one tuple. But of course, there are other ways of knowing that also, because there are, I think, libraries. There are libraries where you can call those constants.
Yes.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Yes.
Suppose that we are like giving some constant, storing some constant in the tuple, and we are storing the same constant in the list also, and then somehow we change that constant. So what would be considered, the list or the tuple first? Because if we change in the list,
tuple
then
would be more reliable because it won't allow you to change the values. List
so
where
it will like pop up like this value already is assigned to tuple or something like that.
no, it will just give you an error that item assignment is not valid for tuple, like how we saw earlier. Like this is the exact error you would get if you want to assign anything to your tuple. Have I?
No, this list. I have already assigned to tuple. Now I want to
Okay.
assign to list. But unfortunately, I'm assigning the same value that has been assigned in the tuple, which I do not want to change in the future. So would it be an error? Like would it be a change in the future due to as I have said in the list?
No, since you have variables in the tuple, it won't give you an error. If you just change the variable inside the tuple, it will.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And to the same name, you can't assign tuple or list simultaneously. The variable name you will have to keep different, right? And that
No,
is
sir,
where
it
here
will.
the interpreter becomes important. That whatever is the latest assignment, that it will take.
Okay. So I
Yes.
can like assign like T2 or L2 or something like that.
Yeah. So suppose you assign T1 as a tuple, and later you assign T1 as a list. Then
Yes.
that input number becomes important. It is an interpreter. Python
Yes.
is an interpreter. So what is the latest assignment? That will be the final thing.
Okay.
So for this example, I have assigned the T1 as
Thank you, sir.
tuple and here T1 as list. So it will assign the latest value.
Okay. So I
I
have
think
to put
what he was
tuple
asking
minus.
is if a equals to 5 and if we put a in T1 as a tuple and a in T2 as a tuple, then will that change? Will that affect? Is
Okay.
Was that your question? Whoever was asking.
Oh, so can you please repeat? Actually, I just lost. What you
A comma 2 comma 3. So if a is in a tuple and a list simultaneously,
Yes,
even
yes.
though the names are different.
Okay, yeah. So since the tuple is taking a variable, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is what you mean, right?
Yes.
Let me just do this in a next cell. I'll run this cell, create a new cell, paste it here, and run this. Okay, and call T1. So if now I change this variable to say 7, and in order to update this tuple, I need to run this again. So it will just define the tuple again with a different variable A, like the
So
different assignment A. So the tuple is updated.
so basically, once we change the constant value that we want to keep constant, the tuple has to be like
Yes,
updated.
since it is a
Even list
since
also. Even list also you will have to update, right? Or it
Yes.
will automatically get updated.
No,
a
even list
list.
you will have to
Even
update.
list because it is interpreter. So
Hmm, yes.
Okay.
So I mean, this is what we mean, right? A comma 2 and say, so if I do this, then, and now if I print T1 comma 1, so this is what we get. Oh yeah, I apologize, I haven't given example of this. Printing this type of thing would just print T1 and L1 with just a space. So for example, if I just remove the print, it will give me a tuple. So T1 is here and L1 is here as defined earlier. Okay. So it's
So
like a
sir,
short. Yes.
so if I write L1 comma T1, does that give me a list?
No, it will just give you a tuple. So whatever value, for example, A is equal, okay, A is equal to 7 and B is equal to 8. So if I run this cell and add a new cell beneath it and type A comma B, so this will give me 7 comma 8. But it's a tuple. It's like a shortcut to identify what the output is. But if I say, for example, have another variable assigned to C is equal to 13 here, so it won't print A comma B. It will just assign that C as 13.
Okay, sir, got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So Pratik will be continuing the session. Okay. So Pratik, you may start.
Yeah.
I'll just stop presenting. Yes.
So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So before we start, I'll just walk you through what kernel means. So when you open Anaconda through Anaconda Navigator or through one prompt, anyways, you open, you see something like this localhost 888. So what this does is this runs a kernel. So you will see this terminal is running in the background. This Anaconda prompt Jupyter Notebook terminal. Whenever you do some changes and you're writing a program, it keeps saving it automatically, and you can see saving file at the saving file. It happens every few seconds or every few minutes. So if you close this, then it will give you an error that the kernel is not running. So you don't have to close this file. Just keep it minimized and you can continue working on it. Yeah. So about lists. I'll like to add a bit about lists, that is how to append and pop values out from a list. So for example, let us consider a list L, and we'll consider a list with different data types. So you can see that I'm taking this example from the same tutorial file that we have shared before. So just I do. I'm not sure why is it not running.
You also explain them that star is coming. What does it mean? And
Yeah, so the star means that this cell is currently running and it has not completed execution. So this means it's in process and it should not take this long. I'm sure. Uh, just a moment, I'll relaunch the notebook.
Jigar, you may answer question in the chat parallelly.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so sorry about that. I have relaunched Jupyter Notebook and now it's working. So yeah, is my screen visible now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have defined a list here, and as Jigar mentioned that we can use append method to add to the list. So how to do that is L is defined as a list, and you can use L dot append. The keyword append adds to the list. So this is the syntax of appending to a list, and whatever you put inside brackets, be it a number or another list, it will be added to the L list. So I'll add a list here, for example, and if you print this list, so now you can see the last element is a list 4,5. So it appends. And similarly, to remove an element from a list, you can use the keyword pop, L.pop. This is the syntax for that. So it pops out the last element that is present in the list. And when you print the list again, you will see that the last element is not there in the list anymore. It is deleted from the list. It gives the output as the last element, and then it is deleted from the list. If you don't want to remove the last element but some element in the middle of the list, then you can put its index in the parentheses. So L.pop 3, what it will do is remove the letter B because B has the index 3. So it removed B, and when you L again, B is not present in the list. So this append and pop is very useful when you are dealing with data sets and you want to remove elements from the list or add elements in the list.
Sir,
Yeah.
I have one question. You just added 4 and 5 at the end of the list, like using L dot append.
Yeah.
Can we add that same in the beginning by some?
You mean
Like I want to append it, append the
You
list, but I
include
want to add 4
suddenly
and
in
5
between.
in the beginning, or in the between, or any desired place I want.
yeah, you can. Okay, wait. So, for example, now what you can do is you can say if you suppose you want to add an element at the second place, then you can say L1 equals to suppose there is no 3 here, right? Yeah. So wait, 4, 5 is removed. So
Hello, Pratik. You may
yeah.
use the insert list dot insert that round brackets, the index value, comma, the number you want to do.
Okay.
Insert, yes. So at index value 0 and the number you want to do.
Okay.
Try calling the list.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so if we change the index, suppose 4, yeah, then it added at 4th place. So to append at desired indices, then you'll have to use insert. Append just adds at the end of the list.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
I have a question. If we assign any variable, like we want to replace one with any variable, can it be of any data type? Or if one is an integer, we have to assign it with the next integer only?
Are you saying if there can be multiple types of data type list?
No, if I want to replace the element of the list, it is it needed to be of same data type or it can be of any
No,
other
it
data
can
type?
be of any data type. So, for example, if at 4th place right now there is 7, right? So I can do at the same place I can put a boolean,
This is an
and
insert, right?
yeah, this is insert. So now you can see at the 4th place it's true, and previously at the 4th place 7, it is pushed to the 5th place. So it can be any data type because list is heterogeneous. It can have multiple data types. So it did not be same.
I missed something. You have given a command pop with a round bracket, empty bracket, and then there's a pop with a round bracket with 3 in it. What is the difference?
Yeah. So L.pop, it pops out the last element from the list. Whereas when you put an index inside the parentheses, it pops out the element at this index. So there is B at index 3. So it popped out B. So keeping the parentheses, the B will pop out the last element, and putting the index will pop out the element at that index.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir, I have a doubt. If we want to add insert multiple elements at 4th place, it is giving an error like L dot index and at some zero value, if I'm adding some multiple elements, it gives error. So can we only insert one element at an index and not multiple?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm not aware about that, how to add multiple. But I think when you input an index value, then you can only add one index at a time, one
Pratik,
element
you
at a
may
time.
It gives error if I try to put multiple elements after, like if I do anything after 7.
Pratik, you may try L dot insert 4 comma and a list of tuple, like
Yeah, a
tuple
list,
instead of.
you can add a tuple, but that would mean that it is just one element. If you want to
Yes.
add multiple elements, then I'm not sure if insert will work. I'll have to check how to do that. So for example, in this case, if at, I'll do it in the new cell. If you want to add multiple elements, then the starting, then you can add one more list, like it can be 7, 8, 9. So, but it won't be adding as like this is not, 7 is not the 0th index and 8 is first index, 9 is second index. No, this whole list is 0th index.
See, surely insert has its own syntax. Okay. What it means is it is allowing only one index and one element.
Yeah.
But is there any other function which will allow you to do multiple things? Like append was a function to add only at the end, okay, or replace something in between. Insert is to insert something, but multiple, because it has got certain syntax now. Okay, it will interpret only that syntax. So you can't have two commas and three different things in the bracket. But
Yeah.
in place of insert, is there something else, or you will have to use some loop so that you can keep inserting?
Yeah, that we can use a loop. That's a good idea. As a separate function, I'm not aware about such a function that can insert multiple elements at a given, from a given index. So even I'll look into it and I will let you know in the classroom.
So when I run my append or pop, it says tuple object has no attribute pop.
No, this pop and append is for lists, not for tuples.
Yes, sir, but I've defined it as L only.
It doesn't matter what you use to define. I can put my
While
name.
defining, did you use square bracket or round bracket? Uh, if you had used round bracket, then it becomes tuple. You can't change it now,
Okay, sir.
or you will have to reassign with square bracket.
Yeah.
Okay.
So defining a list or a tuple, the main thing is using round brackets and square brackets. It doesn't matter what variable name you use to define. You can use L, T, your name, anything. But round brackets mean tuple and square bracket means list. So yeah, that's about lists.
There is
What if we by mistake we put a curly bracket?
Sorry?
Curly bracket, what is it interpreted as?
Curly bracket is a set actually. We have not went into it in much detail, but in the tutorial that we have sent in the classroom, we have mentioned a bit about sets. So
okay. There is one suggestion from Sakshi that dot extend is used for adding multiple elements.
okay, so we can try. Even I was not aware about that. Dot extend. So L dot extend. We can add multiple elements. Like that. Are you saying?
Yeah, this is what it is written.
Okay, let's try. But it okay. So I think we'll have to put index number. If we put 2, is this the acceptable syntax? No, It takes only one argument. So even extend seems to be like it's append. It's adding to the last of the list.
Or if you don't put, you just put multiple elements without the square bracket.
No, it takes only one argument.
But it is not adding it as a list, it is adding it at different elements.
Oh yeah, that's a good observation. So these are different elements. This is not a list. Okay. So this is the difference between append and extend. So if I put append here, then this will be inserted as a list, and extend is adding individual elements. But even this is at the end of the list. I'm not sure what is the syntax if you want to put it at some desired index. Okay, so even I didn't know this.
Sir, using append, can we insert it in between, or we have to just use L dot insert function? I'm just confirming.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Using append function,
Yeah.
okay, using append function, can we can we add only at the last, or can we add in between or in the beginning,
No,
or
append is only to add at the last, and insert is to add at desired index, but
can
only
we
one element.
okay, only one element, okay.
Yeah.
For the thank you.
Okay.
Is there a function for directly replacing, or else I have to always pop out and then insert?
Yeah, directly replacing, you can put, I have shown here, right? Okay, so directly replace, suppose this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. A is at the fourth index. And if I use L4 equals to 22, and then print L, then it will see it changed A to 22. So to completely
Okay.
replace an element, yeah. So yeah, is everyone clear about lists, at least this much? Then I'll proceed to control flow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in control flow, we'll be dealing with loops, that is if else loops, for loop, while loops. We'll look at the syntax and what conditions they check. So a bit of a revision from yesterday. To check for conditions. So this does not mean A is assigned as B. This will check if A is equal to B. So in if else loops or any other conditions, when you want to check if A is equal to B, then you'll have to use double equal to. Not equal to is exclamation and equal to. This is not equal to. Then the usual thing is less than, A less than or equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. So this is used to check conditions between two variables. Now we'll just start by considering one simple example about loops.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. This I was actually doing it parallel, and while I was doing it, I tried the insert method, and I had defined a list L4, and I inserted 6 at the second position. But for some reason, two sixes were added. Like one 6 and another 6 was added to the list as well.
Was 1 6 already present in the list?
Yeah, one 6 was already present in the list. Then another 6 got added, and then another 6 got added. There are three
So maybe you would have run that cell multiple times. It will keep on. See, like I have added 1, 2, 3 multiple, right? So
Yeah.
it keep on adding 1 2 3 1 2 3. If I run
So
this cell again, it will add it one more time.
okay, because I have only run the insert function right now, method right now once, so I don't know why it is happening.
That
Print I have run multiple
that
times.
in number will tell you how many times you have
Yeah,
run.
Yeah. Okay.
this input. Yeah,
No, no, I ran print multiple times. Maybe it's because of that, I guess.
yeah, possible.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll tell you the syntax to take a input from a user. So suppose we assign some variable n and we want this to be a float. So we'll declare it first that this is a float. So input keyword, what it does, it prompts the user to enter the data. So we'll say that enter a number. So this will, when you run this program, what this will do is this will ask the user to put a number. It will prompt. We'll see how it prompts. And we'll start with if else loop. We'll just check if the number we have entered is greater than or equal to 0 or not. So if n is greater than or equal to 0, then it will print okay, let's put if n else. If it's equal to 0, then it will print that it's 0. Else print greater than 0. So if we put phi, see, this is how it prompts. Now when I run this program, it is still showing star. So this is not yet executed because it's waiting for user input. So if I enter phi and press enter, then it will say that it is greater than 0. Now I have put just two conditions, that if it's 0 or, and in else I put that print greater than. What if I put a negative number in this? If I run this again and I put minus phi, it is still showing greater than 0, because we have not yet checked for the condition that if it is less than 0, what should we do?
Sir, sir, can you explain one more? From if n equal to 0.
Yeah, so what does is if n, the number that the user has input, if it is equal to 0, at first I had made a mistake that I put n equals to 0. This is item assignment. This is assigning 0 to n, and this is checking that if n is 0 or not. So to check a condition, you'll have to put double equal to. So if n is 0, then it will print 0. Else any other condition, it will print that it is greater than 0. Even if you put negative, it will put greater than 0. So to avoid that condition, we'll use else if. And else if it is less than 0, then it will print that it is negative.
Uh,
We'll add to that now.
Sir,
Yeah.
I would suggest instead of writing greater than 0, we can write it is not 0, because greater than
Yeah,
0
okay.
can cause confusion.
Yeah. So it is the same. I was going to add else if and okay, but yeah, we can do that too. So if we put
Can I?
minus 5, then it will say not 0. But in this case, what happens is if you put even positive number, it will say not 0. It will just check for this condition.
I have a question. What is that purpose of putting
Yeah.
float there?
So purpose of putting float is it allows user to put a decimal too. Like we can use 80.5. It will accept.
And if you don't put it,
You mean like this?
Pratik, hello, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yeah.
So I think in Python 3, input enter a number, it defaults to a string. So if you want to convert that string input to a number, you may use int or float.
Yeah. So I was showing that by giving an example that if I enter a number now, it will accept it, but it will consider it as, because we have checked only for this condition. So we need to specify if this is a integer or a float. By default, it is a string, the input.
If you put 0, what will happen? You run this program and it put 0. Yeah, that is a thing.
Yeah, that is a test that this 0 is considered as a string. It is not considering it as a number because it is going directly to
So
the else part.
if you put n equal to 0 within the quotes within that okay, now it should take
0,
0, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is this clear?
Float, you can still put integer there, and it would work.
Yeah, we can put integer also.
So you need to define whether n is integer or float. If you don't
Yeah,
define
by
anything, then it will
default, it
take it
is a
as
string.
character or string.
Yeah.
By default, okay.
So I use float because so that we can have the flexibility to put decimal too.
Fine.
Okay,
Hello, sir.
so yeah,
Sir, I have a doubt. Up to what significant digit a number is considered a float?
even if you put just a decimal and one decimal digit, then even that is a float. Like 1 point is
No,
also a float.
what is the maximum limit?
Maximum, I think that would depend on your device.
So I
I
mean
think
that it will
64
be
bit is the
double float
maximum.
or something like that. Yeah.
If you want to know the value, then I will have to check. I don't know the value of the maximum number of that you can have.
Probably is the Python programmers Python design must be deciding what is the biggest number it can handle.
Yeah, I think it is a 64-bit binary number. That is the biggest
No,
that
in
it can
float,
store
for
in one
example,
variable.
it is a question of how many decimal places it can handle or how many significant digits it can handle.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this is a 16-digit number by default.
16 digit is it printing. It might be handling internally more.
Yeah, it is printing 16. It might be more internally.
So if by mistake we enter a number which has more significant digits, so it will truncate it and print or consider it as a float. After truncating,
It will always
Uh,
truncate beyond certain number of decimal places. That's where the errors creep in computational
yeah.
calculations.
We can say even this is truncated, right? There are more in the interpreter, more numbers here. Yeah,
So what
so
is the
we'll
meaning
get,
of truncated?
sorry.
What does truncate mean?
Truncate means it will stop adding more numbers, I think.
Truncate means you cut at some particular decimal
Yeah,
place and neglect all further digits.
Okay.
because the further digit will just keep adding to the error. So that's why. Uh,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah,
So I tried entering the input function. Once I did that, and then I deleted it, and when I'm doing it again, it's not happening. And there's like a star at in to the left.
what did you do? Could you repeat?
I just wrote like n is equal to input, enter number. I
Hmm.
got an input bar the first time, but then when I did it again
Hmm.
after deleting it, it's not happening.
Deleting what?
I deleted the input function. Like I deleted whatever I had written, and then I tried doing it again.
You can rerun the cell. You can see this stop button. You can stop the process and you can try to run it again. This
Okay,
will
sir.
stop the current cell running. Yeah. So now we'll look at another condition. If n is less than 0. So the syntax in Python is, if you want to use else if, that is not a final statement. Else if will check if there is another condition. So if n is equal to 0, it will print 0. Else if n is less than 0, it will print negative. And all other conditions, it will print positive. So ELIF,
I
not LS. So, yeah, sorry.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, so in Python, else if is ELIF, not in C, I think it is ELSIF. So in Python, it is ELIF. And the syntax is, do not forget this colons or your control flow statements. This is very important. And you'll notice that there is a one tab indentation between after if and else if.
So if you write two statements in that elif condition, print negative and also print not 0. Both should run, right?
One more sentence,
Yes.
you mean? Like, yeah, it will print both.
Because it has to have that indentation. So
if I do not have this indentation, then I think there will be error. Yeah, invalid syntax. So whatever is after a condition, it has to be indented.
but now here this after else, the two will give two different outputs. No,
Sorry,
after else you put a statement. Okay, now we complete this.
After else, what should I put?
Print not 0.
Okay.
And next time without indentation. Leave it. Leave this. Run this.
Okay.
Okay, and now don't put this indentation for the second print.
Like this?
And run the cell again. So -5.
No, it will still print because
No,
after else, this loop is completed.
Correct. So, but you don't know whether it is printing immediately. So put -5, then also it will, or put 0.
Then it will
put
print.
0. Put 0. Then also it will put.
Yeah, it will. This will still print because this 0 is this condition is over here itself. I put a 0, it printed 0. Then it will skip all this, and remaining is still this one print.
That colon after else is required.
Yeah, it is required.
But sir, if you put 5, it is positive and it is also not 0. Then it will go in that else loop. Then there will not be an error in indentation because the print is not at the particular place, because now the loop will be covered whole completely.
Okay, wait. If I put +5, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so it printed positive. Yeah.
But it has also printed not 0. Why there is no error in indentation now?
Because this is not inside the if loop. The loop is finished when the else is finished. This is only the if and else loop.
Try entering 0.
Elif is optional, but else is compulsory.
Yeah, elif even else is optional.
Can you run it with 0? Once can you run it with 0?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says not
So
0
running
also, the
it
last
0, what did is it skipped this part because this condition is already satisfied. So it printed 0, and still one statement is remaining, this print statement. So it printed that too.
So when earlier within elif you had skipped that indentation.
Yeah.
The earlier case.
Yeah.
Within elif. Okay, so up to that point it was fine, but then suddenly a new else statement comes without any if.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
If
why it
if
is
I
getting
if
error.
I don't put, okay, I'll just comment this out. So this else part is commented out, and if I do this, what should I put so that all is printed?
What did you
Okay,
do?
so I
You put
put
three dot. You put three
5.
dots. You put three dots for a comment.
This, yeah, this is single quotation, three single quotations, so that I can put multiple lines in comments. We covered this yesterday while commenting. So a hash will just put one line in a comment, whereas when you want to put multiple lines inside comments, then you use three single apostrophes and three single apostrophes. So within say 6 single apostrophes, whatever content will be, it will be commented out. It won't be considered in the program. So now that I have entered phi, this condition was satisfied. This else if this was kept, this was kept. It just printed this and this. So even else statement is not necessary. But if there is an else if, there is some test condition and there is semicolon, then everything that is indented will be considered as a part of a loop. When you unident it, then it will be out of the loop. It will be printed. Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we'll move on. So what next I had in mind is user input is done. So we'll go for the for loop in next thing.
Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
Can you explain in the above one that how if we remove float and then we n equal and put colon that colon and then how then it reads the same thing? Why?
Sorry, you're not. If I remove float, then what?
Then and if we run, then it does not give the same answer, right?
Okay, so what this does is this will consider whatever user will input as a string. It won't consider it as a number. Whereas in our if and else loop, we are checking for the condition considering 0 as a number. So when I run this and I put 0, see, it is giving not supported instances of string and integer. I have checked for integer here. I've checked for
Pratik,
integer here.
just for the sake of confusion, you may just print out type n before after you assign
Okay,
the
yeah,
n
that's a good
variable.
idea. Say this is a class string. So the number I have entered 0, I have entered a number, but it is considered as a string because I have not declared before if it is an integer or a float. So by default, it considers the input as a string.
And the next statement from if is for an integer, so that's
Yeah,
why
it
it
is
given.
checking for an integer. If
Okay,
n is equal to the 0 integer.
understood. Thank you, sir.
If I put 0 in single quotations, then it will test if n is a 0 as a string, and then it will work.
Okay.
See, it printed 0. It printed 0.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So now for loops. So we can use for loop to iterate over a sequence of statements. We'll give a simple example from our tutorial itself. So for x in the string physics, we'll just print all the letters. So what this does is it starts with some index. So it will start for x is string. So when x is p, it will print p. Then it will go to the next letter. When x is h, it will print x. When y, it will print y. That's why it is printed on next line, because print statements are printed on the next lines. So what this does, it iterates over a string or list or tuple or whatever. So for an example, range function, what this does is it will give you a number from 0 to 10 in range. So this in range, 0 is inclusive, but the second index is exclusive. So it will print from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 till 9. It won't print 10. If you want 10 also, then you have to put 11. Then it will print from 0 to 11. And then you can print using the similar for x in range 11, print x. So see, it printed from 0 to 10 because this is inclusive and this is exclusive. It will stop at this index -1. So
this
one more
only works
example.
on integers.
Sorry?
Range function only works on integers.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yes, it will work on integers. We can actually test, I think range function accepts third argument as step. So if we say that for I in range, we can take 0 to suppose 5 in the steps of 0.1. Let's see when I'm trying this.
Colon after for.
Yeah, float object cannot be. It only accepts integers. So range only. So you can use
No, but
size as 1 and it will work. Or step
yeah,
size
yeah.
2 and it will work.
Okay. Step size.
Yeah. So this is the inclusive index, this is the exclusive index, and this is the step size.
Hello.
Yeah.
But here we need not. We are not specifying that it is using only integer. So how do we? So we need to remember that, or
Yeah, we need
what
to
is the
remember that the range function accepts only integers.
Okay.
And
What?
it is defined in Python.
So what we will do if we want float values or something like that?
So if we want float values, then we can use other functions in our NumPy library, which we will learn later on. So in NumPy library, there is a function.
Or here also, suppose I want 0 to 10 with 0.1. I can go for 0 to 100 with 1, and then
Divide
define
by
a new
10.
variable divide by
Yeah.
10.
Yeah. So we can try
Say it
that.
again,
0
Mahesh.
to 100.
And I
Like
by
this.
10. Yes.
So this will give you a step size of 0.1. Okay, that's a list. So yeah, this is done. Then we'll try to write a simple function to find
So
factorial.
what does the third argument say? One. What does it tell?
Okay, so the syntax is the range function has an inclusive start. Inclusive start means it will start at that number. Then the second number is the exclusive stop. It won't consider the second index. It will stop just before it. Like it will stop at 9 if we put 10. And the third is the step size. That is how much is the difference between two consecutive. If I put 1, then the difference between two consecutive outputs will be 1. See, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I put 2, then the difference between two consecutive outputs will be 2. If I put 3, say 0, 3, 9, 6, there is a difference of 3, difference of 3, difference of 3, like that. So the third number is the step size. In how many steps do you want the number to be incremented?
Okay, thank you, sir.
You don't have to start from 0, no? You can start from any number.
From any number, yeah. From 4 to 10 in steps of 3. You can go negative 2. Uh, so yeah, for loop is done. We'll look at one example about break and continue. So I will suggest that you I'll just cover one example here. So this is okay. To save time, I'll just enter some number here right now. Suppose 7. But you can ask this number for the user. So for I in range 1 to whatever number the user will put. So n plus 1. Why we'll put plus 1 is because this is an exclusive step. If we want to include n, then we'll have to type n plus 1. So for I in range, what it will do is it will multiply f equals to f into I. So this is like finding factorial. So if n is 7, then what it will do is it will start from 1 and keep on multiplying until it reaches 7. So 1 into 1, 1 into 2, 1 into 3, 1 into 4, it will keep on multiplying. And then we can print f, which will be the factorial. So you can say factorial of n. What syntax error? Did I put space or something?
I in range.
If comma
Okay, no, I
print.
didn't put n. I didn't put n in I in range. So the factorial of 7 is this. So you can ask user input, then you can change whatever. So
Hello.
yeah.
Now there is no compulsion of indentation for print. Is there any specific
No,
feature for loop?
print should be outside for, right? If you print inside for,
Right.
you can see what happens. It will keep on printing every
I have a
iteration.
question.
Yeah.
In that print command, you have put first there is an f which you have put.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Formatted output.
This formatted
What is
string.
that f doing there?
Okay, so what this says is this output string which
A
will be
formatted
printed is
string.
a formatted string. Whatever I will put inside curly brackets will be the value of the variables that I have assigned in the program. If I didn't use formatted string, then I will have to write a tedious. I'll show you factorial of.
I think in that print command.
Yeah.
In that print command, instead of n, you should put I. Then your output will be appropriate. It says factorial of 6 is 1, factorial of 6 is 2. So I think instead of n, if you put I.
No, that happened because I identified this to show what will happen. If I put it out, then it won't end like that.
Yeah, but if you put it out, then you put I. Then
Okay, just a moment. I hash. What you are saying is if I identified this and put I instead of this,
You dot indent and then put I.
then it will give the correct
Yeah.
values of all the factorials. 5 factorial, 4 factorial, 3 factorial, like that. So if
This
you want to
becomes
print,
useful when you want to check whether loop is working correctly.
yeah, to make it look better, you can just okay. Skip character doesn't work on
That
exclamation.
doesn't need, no? Directly the exclamation mark might be. You may not need all that. Just put exclamation mark without quotes.
Without quotes?
It should work. Yeah.
Oh, okay, it works. Oh, I have put quotes here. I forgot. Okay, yeah. This is a formatted string, and I was thinking about this type of string. So I'll show you the difference between formatted string and normal string. So n factorial equals to this. So now if you will see, the outputs look very same. But this is quite tedious when you want n comma, then again open quotation, then close, then again comma and f. This is very easier when you can write just in curly brackets. It gives
And
the same output.
also after 6 there is a space. So is it because inside the
Yeah, this will add a space by default.
so after integer it adds a space by default.
Yeah.
Sir,
Formatted
excuse
string
me.
looks better.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I constructed the same program for which it asked n from the user, means who want. I write float input, enter the number. So it said float is not cannot be interpreted as integer, somewhat like that. Then I change it to integer. It worked. Right, sir?
Uh, did you put for n or f?
N.
It
Inside
should
range
work.
it will not work.
Yeah. So you cannot find in decimal factorial, right? It will
And the
become
point is
complicated.
even if you put integer number by declaring it float, you can't
In
accept that in
range,
range
yeah.
function.
In range function, you have to put n, right? So it won't accept a float. It will accept only integer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So what next we can do is I'll show you how to break or continue. We'll do first while loop and then yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So there we have written f is equals to f into I. So for reducing the work, can we write f star is equals to I? Like,
You mean like this?
yes, sir.
Like this, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this will work. This is just like plus equal to or minus equal to when you want to increase or decrease. This will multiply. Same thing.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So while loop. So let's declare a count variable. Then while this count is less than 5, we'll print it. Print count. And we'll increment it by 1. So this is the same format that count plus equals to 1. So what this will do is while this condition is true, it will print. So the difference between for and if is if we test for one condition, for will test for whatever the data type or in range or whatever we'll put here. and while will test if the condition is true or false.
And
So
or will only allow it for integers, while you can add up increase by 0.1 also.
okay, let's try. Yeah. Okay, I'm not sure why it is showing like this, but this is interesting.
Those floating point errors.
Yeah. So to break or to continue a loop, the break or continue statements, it is best understood by example instead of I'll just copy the same example. So we have to test for the condition true. So while it is true, we'll print count and we'll increment count by 1, and then we'll put an if condition here, that if count is greater than or equal to 5, that is if it reaches 5, then it will break the loop. So what this does, it breaks when the value of count is invented and it reaches 5. This is just to initiate, this is just to define a variable that count is something. And while this is true, it will keep on printing and incrementing it by 1. But if count is reached 5, it will break the loop and it will stop executing. Similarly, if you replace this break with continue, okay, it won't stop and you'll have to stop the kernel, because it will keep running at whatever your processor speed will be, and it will just keep on printing numbers. But what you will notice is it continued when the condition count greater than 5 was reached. It didn't stop there. So if I do this,
You
okay, it's
put
the
count
same.
less than 5 and
Yeah,
continue.
that's what I was trying. Okay, so if count is less 5, then it will continue, and it won't. It will never stop running. Indefinite loop.
So could you explain what the point is of writing while?
1 minute. If count is less than 5, then continue. Then when count becomes 5, then it should stop, no?
It won't stop, no? It will
No,
continue.
no, the
It
condition,
will
you are
keep
not
on
even
running
checking
in the
condition of
background.
count. You are not
Yeah.
even checking condition of count. You are saying while is true all the time. Your condition for while
Acha, you
is
have already
just
said
true.
while is true.
Yeah, while is true.
Yeah, but if you don't put while true, then what will happen?
It will not run at all.
It will not run at all because
No,
it will
no,
not
but
end its
don't
loop.
put a condition while true or false. Then
Like this. But it has to check for
yeah.
something, right? This will
No,
give an
what I'm
error.
saying is I want
Can you
your
put
loop to stop
I less
because you
than
put a
10?
condition.
Count less than 10?
1 minute, 1 minute. Yeah. Can I say
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
I'm saying you have put a condition. If count is less than 5, continue.
Okay.
Then what I'm saying is if count becomes 5, it should stop. Because you said that continue only if it is less than 5. So then how would you start with your while loop?
Continue means it will go back to while condition and check. And while checking,
Yeah.
true was returned. So it runs that.
Right. But suppose if I say count less than 5, then continue. So when it goes back and then now if it says while is because you have put a condition if count is less
Continue
than
becomes
5.
redundant. The opposite of continue is not break here.
No, I'm saying if count is less than 5, continue. Is this not a continuous command?
What this continue will do is it will go back and check the condition, and it will just keep on running in the same loop because if it's less than 5.
So if count less than 5 condition is becoming meaningless then.
Yeah, it is becoming meaningless. That's the point about this. If we put continue here, this continue will be used when the while condition is different. I was
So
just,
continue only checks the while condition. Okay.
yeah,
Continue only checks while condition.
continue and
So
break
there,
both.
then if count less than 5 or if count greater than 5 is actually a meaningless statement, because your condition is checked. That was okay if it is a break, but if it is
Yeah,
to be continued, then it will go to while loop only.
yeah, exactly.
Do one thing.
If you
While
want,
you do
I
one
can
thing.
demonstrate the significance of continue. One more example. So yeah, sir, you were saying something. You can continue.
No, you continue with this example.
Yeah. So if we have to check even number, so if what this percentage do is it will check if the remainder is, so if the remainder is 0, then it will continue, and then we can print x.
So
So what?
you are dividing x by 2,
Yeah. So it
but you
won't
are putting
print
a
the even numbers.
no, the division you are doing by percentage sign.
This
Integer division.
percentage, this is integer division. So
I
if the remainder is 0 after divide by 2, then it will continue. It won't print that.
no, I mean, if you want to divide by integer, then you have to use percentage sign. Is that what you're saying?
This is reminder. If you want to divide by integer, then it is double hash, double slash. I mean, this is integer
But
division.
mod.
Division by integer is double hash,
Yeah.
and percentage sign is remainder.
Remainder. Yeah. So when x is 1, for x we have taken in the range 0 to 10, right? So 0 is, we can skip that. If x is 1, then 1 divided by 2 is not equal to 0. So it will continue and it will print 1. If x is 2, it is 0 and it will continue and it will not print that because the remainder is 0 if this condition is true. Am I make sense or?
So continue takes it
So,
back to for. It
no,
doesn't
but what I'm
run
saying,
further
uh,
statement.
so continue takes you back to check the condition up there, but it
Yeah.
will skip the print. But otherwise, it will go to print and still go back because you have said it's a for loop.
Yeah.
Is it possible
Everything
if
below for loop is within. Since you have indented print, that print is within for loop.
Yeah, exactly.
can I demonstrate an example to show why continue is useful?
Yeah. Should I stop presenting?
For a bit, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll go to a new tab, and for example, let's say we have a list, and in this list we have these following elements. Okay, and suppose we want a new list, say L2, but we want all the elements of a list being multiplied by a constant. So, for example, I want 1 to be multiplied by 2, and all these elements are multiplied by 2. So we get like 2, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 14, and so on. So we need to do that. So, for example, we create a for loop. But in order to do so, let's just say that I don't want to multiply this element 3 or 4. So you need to use continue for that. So for element in L1, print element. So what this will do is just print all the elements. So okay. So now what we do is if okay if say for example I don't want to multiply the number 3. So that is 0, 1, 2, index 2. So if element is equal to 3, continue. Else element star 2, that is multiply 2. And I'll just make one more list. Here say L2, and this is an empty list. So I can append this list. For example, okay. So I'll append this list L2 dot append, and I'll just save this as one more variable. Say A. So A is equal to this. So append A. Now if I come out of the loop and print L2, this is what it will give me. What is okay? So
It
it
has
has
skipped 3 to the
skipped
6.
3. Yes. If I don't want it to skip 3, let's
Sir, can
just.
you please resume a bit? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes. I'm sorry. Can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So if I do this and okay, it has skipped 3. So continue does this. It will go for the next element in the list. So if the element is equal to 3, it will just continue to the next element. So it won't append 3 here. Or if you wanted to append the element, so for example, L2 dot append element. So now it will do this. So continue is useful in the sense that you want to avoid something, and like for example, I have avoided multiplying 3 with 2 here. So for element in L1, so if uh, L1 the element is 1, so if element so 1 is equal to 3, so that condition is false. So this won't work. So it will directly append element into 2. So that is 1 into 2 as A, and A is now appended to this. A similar thing for 2. So 2 is not equal to 3. The condition is false. So that means if false, okay, so this thing won't work, and it will straight away multiply 2 with 2. So that value is stored in A, and then you append A. So similar thing for 3. So now 3 is equal to 3. The condition is true. That means L2 will now append the element. So element was 3, right? So it will append the element which is 3. So that's what we get.
And the
Then
continue will take it back to for loop.
that's correct. So now after appending 3, you get this continue thing. So it will go to the next element. So it will check whether 4 is equal to 3. So the condition is false. So that means this won't work. And it will directly multiply 4 with 2. That is 8. So this is what we get.
Now you can replace continue with break and show that it stops at 3.
Yes. So,
L2 you have
okay.
to print.
Oh yeah. Yes. So as this is what we expect. If the element is 3, then it breaks, and this won't work because this is in for loop. Okay. Okay, I'll hand it over to you again.
So, Jigar and Pratik.
Yeah.
You can make concluding remarks. We'll stop.
Can I just quickly at least show how to define a function, at least one function? So that will complete our whole tutorial and people can follow the tutorial one.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So defining a function. So function is something, what it does
Share
is
your
when,
screen.
sorry, yeah. I have shared, right?
No.
Is it now?
Yes.
Okay. So what function does it? It performs a block of a code and you can pass data or parameters, or you can write even an empty function. So it makes code really robust. Like if you want to use some part of a code multiple times, then you can call a function. So a function is defined using the keyword def. So you can see if you type def, it highlights it into green. So def defines a function, and the name of the function can be anything. For our example, we'll take area of rectangle. So this name of a function, area rectangle. And so the syntax is you have to put parentheses. It can either be empty parentheses or it can have any parameters like length or breadth. First, I'll show you without any parameters. So everything that you will write in a function should be indented by one tab space. So define area of rectangle. Suppose we take L, length is 20, breadth is 8, and then you can print first say area is L into B, and then you can print area with rectangle of length L and breadth B is area square units. So okay. So what you have done is now you have defined a function which calculates the area of rectangle. Now when you call this function area of rectangle, calling a function is just typing the name of the function with empty brackets, and when you press enter, it will directly print the statement area with area of area of rectangle of length L then. So it will just print directly like that. Now what you can do is you can generalize this function by putting these parameters L and B as an input of the definition itself. So what I can do is I will delete this, and I can put L comma B here, and I'll run this. Now while calling a function, I put the values here itself. If the length is 30 and the breadth is 21 of a rectangle, then it will directly print the area. So this is how I define a very simple function. It can accept the parameters. The order should be the same. First is L and second is B, because that's how the function is defined. So the first element is the length and the second is the breadth. So yeah, this is
Okay,
about defining
one
function.
more thing. Now you are inputting length and breadth, the two numbers which you are going to use inside that function to do calculation of area.
Yeah.
Is it possible that this area which you have calculated, because this area is a variable inside this function, is it possible that this output I can assign to some other variable?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So suppose I assign area as a variable and I say area rectangle, I can call this function.
No, it is double. You are using area inside and outside also. So
No,
call this.
this is
separate.
one whole. This is one
No,
whole
the,
name.
the first area, because inside the function also you have called it area. So,
Mahesh, can I suggest?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just say volume is equal to area into height, and then see what happens.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, I can do that. So I like to define height first. So suppose h
No,
equals
you
to.
don't define height.
No, you did not. Volume you
We just
define
call it
as area
volume.
into height.
We just
Okay,
call you
directly.
volume.
Okay, take. So volume equals to area. I'll put the same value 30, 21
No, you can define
into
volume.
height.
You can define volume as a function with height and the area. Can you do that way?
Yeah, I can. Okay, I got it. What you said. So define volume as it will accept the function. You say like that.
Area rectangle.
Pratik, you need to return the value in that
Yeah,
definition
that's
of
what I was
area
thinking.
rectangle.
Yeah. area rectangle comma h. Okay, we can keep it L and B here. We can.
No, Pratik, don't define new this thing, new function. Just write a statement, volume equal to area rectangle LB and another number.
Yeah, we can do that.
Uh,
Into suppose say 10. Okay, I have to print it. Yeah. So this will work.
now
We
just
can call a function
explain
directly
this,
and
explain everything again, because what has happened.
okay, so the changes I did here is instead of printing the value of area, what I did is I returned the value of area. So now what this function will do is when I will call this function and put some values instead of L and B, instead of this whole thing, it will put the value 630. It will return the area. So what volume does is it will multiply the value of whatever this function returns into whatever the number you put. So this is the volume. You can similarly define the function volume this, and even that should work. So
I think you'll need to say volume, VOLUME, because you are defining with full name.
okay, so this is different. I am defining a function here, whereas I am declaring a variable here. Did you get the difference? This can be anything. This can be V, or then I'll have to print V.
No, that's okay. But then why are you defining it?
Because I have to print something, right?
No, you want to use it somewhere, then you define it. Na?
No, print, you are printing V anyway.
I can directly do this too. I don't need this line then.
No,
I
you
don't need
just
to
say
define V.
return this.
Return won't print it.
Don't print it. You are calling function for some other purpose, right?
Okay, I was
Yeah.
just checking if this is an acceptable syntax. So this is not, I think.
Because that is not defined inside one function.
You may just use L comma B comma H in that parameter, and then proceed with the following. Yes.
Then you can you call one function? But I think this we can discuss in the next tutorial, where whether you can call one function from another function.
It works. Yeah, we can. So I called the function volume LBH and I print another function in that, which is area of rectangle LB into H. And it printed it.
Okay, so shall we conclude at
Yeah,
this point?
yeah, we can conclude at this point. So I will, some of them have commented on Classroom that the last program of Fibonacci sequence, it was incorrect. And yes, it was incorrect. And we have corrected it. This file, which I will send on Classroom, I will put the Fibonacci program also at the last here, and you can refer to that later. So that is about defining functions and loops.
Gore sir has made a suggestion about recursion. So can you include some kind of recursion example or assignment in your today's tutorial or assignment?
Today's assignment, right?
Yeah, assignment.
Yeah, okay. I will add one question about recursion. Yeah.
Then these tutorials can be discussed day after tomorrow or so.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, sure, okay. So yeah, that's it for today.